Good morning and welcome to Found&Chosen's LinkedIn Live. Good morning, squad team. How are you all?
Doing great.
Good.
Excited.
Thank you.
Good to hear. We are unfortunately missing Lindsay today. So hi, Lindsay. Shout out to you if you are watching from home. But today we've already talked about in the green room, beach walks with clients, turmeric sourdough bread, and the best of all Guinness for you guys anyway. So that was a good way to kick off our chats. But now it's time to narrow the focus on how we bridge the gap and educating the C-suite in ABM and Nearbound strategies. My name's Emma Monroe-Harris, and I'm the founder of Found&Chosen. Looking forward to this conversation today because it's absolutely crucial to implementing and executing go-to-market strategies successfully to make sure everyone is speaking the same verbiage and on the same team. We have joining us today Pete, Paula, and Bryant, all squad leaders with Found&Chosen with their own agencies. Pete, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm Pete. I'm very happy to be here. I'm based in New Jersey, and I'm excited to talk about this today. And I think, are we going to do our get-tos this week?
Go for it. Oh, I missed that. Go for it. What did you get to do this week, Pete?
Well, so two things. I suppose one has got to kind of kick off with a new client who was also an old client, which I always love to do with kind of to regroup with people that we've had success with in the past. And then last night, which is probably why my voice is a little bit hoarse today, is I was at a Weezer concert, and it was awesome. It was a really, really cool show, and there was a lot of singing along. So I'm a little hoarse, but happy to be here.
I did not even notice. Who was the concert for? With
Weezer. They're doing it's like the 30th anniversary of their Blue album. It's an awesome show. I definitely, one of my takeaways today will be go see that show. It's awesome. They put on it looks and sounds great.
That's a very cool get to. Thanks, Pete. Paula, what was if you can introduce yourself and tell us about the get tos for the week.
Yes, thanks for having me. Paola Piccino from the Sunshine Coast, Australia. Get to, I also same with as Pete. I got to start a new strategy process with a new client here live on the Sunshine Coast, which is a new thing for me. My clients are scattered around different regions, even outside of Australia. Having one here in person was so exciting. I also for a second considered running the workshop with real Post-it notes, but I still used Miro. So it was both of us in person. We could, touch each other and we still looked at the screen, but it was just so efficient. So that was the biggest thing for me. That's the biggest thing. I'm just going to stick to that because it's a big achievement and the beginning of a long partnership. And I'm really excited about this.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining and sharing. Bryant.
Hi, everyone. Bryant Goodall calling in from Dallas, Texas. What I got to do this week, I got to onboard a super smart new employee. It's always exciting to have someone come in that is going to make an instant impact, but it's also very frightening to test your assumptions with this smart person and see if anything makes sense after trying to do the knowledge share. So this week has been a lot of fun, a lot of reinforcement of the learnings, and just a lot of excitement and having some really cool conversations.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining and sharing. We appreciate it. What was my get-tos this week? It's funny, as Found&Chosen grows, and a lot of my time right now is being spent on launching 2 new products over the next 3 months, which the squad team knows about. The public doesn't know about it yet, but so that's taking up a lot of my time, but I get to do it. And it's kind of stretching me in ways that I haven't, like doing things that I haven't leaned into before. So I get to learn a lot of new things right now, but also keep very firmly focused on marketing, sales, and team training, which is why we're all here. So the discussion for today is bridging the gap, educating the C-suite on ABM and Nearbound strategies. Now, the reason why this keeps rearing its head is kicked off 2 weeks ago. More and more posts on LinkedIn, but also conversations with clients, or the squad leaders are having conversations with clients where marketing teams are getting so beat up. And honestly, VCs are getting beat up too. It feels like the VC universe and the managing partners and portco managers are continually educating themselves on go-to-market strategy. The marketing and sales teams, they're all coming along together really nicely, and they are consistently evolving how they go to market, etc. But the C-suite in the middle, they're kind of lagging, and that's up for discussion today. So one thing I want to lean into with the squad leaders first is, do we think it's a lag for the C-suite understanding modern go-to-market practices? Or do you think it's just what do you think's going on?
I'll jump in. Okay.
If
you don't mind, I really what I suspect, or what I've witnessed in the past, having amassed multiple decades in the industry, is that so much of the evolution between what is very well described in the book Nearbound, so much of the evolution between technology-driven sales, technology-driven marketing, and now this new middle area of building trust, it's kind of left some of the executives behind, and that's not a negative. It's more so that there's so much old world thinking, whether it be attribution based or very linear journey based, and therefore their expectations, I think, are often initially assuming that the old world tactics, the old world measurements are all going to stay the same, which is not the truth. That's kind of what at least from many interactions with C-suite.
Absolutely, and it is the measurement piece, right? You expecting or asking the questions and setting the expectations with your team of, yes, we're going to deploy this new go-to-market strategy, but not considering the evolution of the questions you need to be asking of your team, the execution that you expect from your team, etc. So then they turn around. If you're still asking the old school questions paired with a new strategy, your marketing and sales team is going to burn 90% of their time, which is what we're seeing, on justification, which it's an unintended consequence, I believe. But when your VCs are saying the same thing and they're on the same page as your marketing and sales teams, then C-suite needs to look at themselves. Paola, what's your experience in this? Are you seeing the same thing?
Absolutely, very much in line with what Brian said. So what I see is, I've been seeing, even before getting into the topic of the book that Nearbound highlights, it's how the C-suite is not engaged enough for lack of time, lack of willingness, perhaps, but they still think that the marketing teams, or the middle management and the people that are executing the work, they're still doing the same marketing tactics. So they believe that Nearbound or ABM is still going to do the same, consuming marketing budgets. They don't believe in it. But I think what that highlights is a lack of knowledge or exposure from the C-suite to what the new ways of doing marketing are. And that's where education, training, but again, mainly they need to be willing to do this. We can invite them to so many training. The management and the VCs and the other partners can involve the C-suite and invite them in so many training courses and updates. But there needs to be, it's a long process. It's not one meeting, one training, or a couple of sessions. They're not going to fix it. It's a big change management piece. And sometimes it hurts maybe to say this, but it depends on the person. You need to have the right C-suite that are open-minded enough within the organization to be able to they need to want to listen.
Absolutely. That's a good point. No, I'm echoing somewhere. Sorry, team. Thank you, Paola. Pete, you've been in some rooms and working with some companies and sort of butting your head against this for years. What's been your experience?
Yeah, I think, I agree with everything that's been said already by Brian and Paula. And I think the kind of the two words I keep coming back to on this are trust and proof. And I think it's really important that sort of when you're speaking to the C-suite that, if you're coming in cold and you haven't built that trust with them yet, they're always going to be skeptical. And I think, right now, maybe more so even than the last few years, there's a lot of market uncertainty. So I think it's kind of, in defense of the C-suite, I would say there's, it makes sense that you would want to stick to the tried and tested methods. Even though sort of, I think we all know that there's a better way, and it's a data-backed way that we're looking at this. But I can see kind of how you would say, there's too much going on right now. Let's just focus on what has worked in the past. So I think that's been really important. So I think kind of the level of trust, like personally, when I've kind of been working on ABM programs with C-suite, my best results have been when I've already built that trust, with other kind of paid media campaigns, with other marketing strategies. So when I approach them with something new that they maybe don't fully understand yet, they're like, you know what, Peter has a good track record. We're going to kind of trust him. We're going to run with him on this. So I think when it's something, I think probably the biggest resistance I've found is when we're approaching sort of maybe it's a new prospect or somebody who we haven't built that trust with yet. And they're like, oh, there's too much kind of unknown here. I'm gonna back off from it. That's kind of been my experience in the last few years.
I like that, trust and proof. And you and I are working on a few clients, Pete, where we're doing pilot programs with them to build that trust, which works well. And some of the things that you can do to build that trust is forward warn, right? Any issues that you anticipate happening, right? Like, we know from implementing 48 different ABM programs that 6 to 8 weeks into working with the sales team on marketing qualified accounts, when they're totally used to working solely on leads and leads only, they're going to be really excited in week 2 because they've never had this level of marketing support before. But at week 6 to 8, they're going to start going, oh my God, this is hard. Prospecting and hunting and doing what you need to do to get nose to nose with these accounts is hard, right? And forward preparing the C-suite as much as you can builds that trust, right? So they go, okay, they're already forward planning, and this is how we're going to tackle that if and when it happens, right? And then the proof bit comes out of a pilot. And with a pilot, we tend to focus on opportunity accounts, right? Let's look at the opportunity accounts and ABM any of those that have gone cold or are lagging or being super delayed. What can we do there with the sales team? And secondly, let's look at your customer accounts and identify expansion opportunities and run ABM for that. Those two particular campaigns in a pilot tend to prove out and get quicker runs on the board for clients, which then gives the C-suite the confidence and the trust with those proof points. Brian and Paula, do you have any other examples of building trust and showing proof?
I do here, and it's a nice segue to what you mentioned there with the pilots. This is from a client of mine. It is a rapidly growing SaaS company that specializes in AI-powered marketing automation. They had never done ABM before, but they recognized the potential of this program. And the main KPI was to drive revenue growth and improve their customer engagement. When I say it wasn't the whole company. The middle management wanted to do it, but they needed the C-suite to be on board. And that's when they faced resistance for all the reasons that we just mentioned right now. Highly skeptical, never done it before. What is this new thing? Why am I putting this money into this? All of this, the complexity also, and the ROI was something that was really worrying them. What the middle management did to overcome this challenge, well, they did a lot of things. It's another thing, going back to what I mentioned earlier, it's not one action, it's not just doing one training on just one of those things. It took time, and it was a set of different actions. One of them was running an ABM pilot program to start showcasing the results, and taking the C-suite on the journey with them step by step, more so that they would have done on a normal ABM, but just to hold their hands, I guess. And then they provided executive education. So they organized training sessions tailored just to the C-suite, using the language that they would understand and they will resonate with, all about what ABM could do, the best practices around it, case studies from similar companies who achieved great success from that. And then they start to showcase, thanks to the ABM pilot, the early wins and measurable results. And within the space of between 3 and 5 months, the C-suite was then convinced of the value of ABM and then approved a full-scale rollout after the pilots ended. Now, this is one success story. It doesn't always happen this way and this smoothly. There needs to be a lot of people involved in this, and good knowledge within the organization or the agencies that work with the brand around how to do it properly, run an ABM program.
Got you. It does take time. It definitely takes time. Bryant, what's been your experience with this challenge?
I have a very specific example, and Pete, great call out on the trust and the proof, because as I recall this example, it's exactly the way that the tack that we went. It was particularly difficult because the C-suite had been running marketing service companies in the past, so they had the acumen and they had the old world understanding of attribution and taking credit from the marketing standpoint. That's how they proved their value. But as they were shifting towards a software solution that required a buyer's group and account-based marketing tactics, they didn't necessarily know what the transition was between that. So one of the things that we did to build the trust was we showed them example campaigns as if they were the target account, the C-suite were. So we showed the many-to-one advertising, one-to-one advertising, all trying to sell them our product from that standpoint. And as well, we brought in the sales leaders to kind of play with what a sales call would be and basically put the C-suite in the position of our target account. And it helped make things real from that proof standpoint of say, okay, you may have recognized this in the market as you have been a target account. You can probably understand how this is supposed to work. And where we found it, or the moment I realized that we had landed with the C-suite, that they understood what was going on, was when the CEO sent us a message showing a personalized ad on LinkedIn and say, look, they've got our business name on the ad. They've got this. We're like, okay, we've got it. So it was, like I mentioned, it was a difficult challenge because they had a mature vocabulary with marketing, and they had associated a lot of their success towards what I would call random acts of marketing. Yes, they had an idea. Yes, they had these tactics. And because they had a playbook of tactics, they felt like the strategy could be used again. But it was really in showing them real world examples and then eventually using them as real world examples that they really got it. And then the rest of the way was alignment on those KPIs. What are the new metrics? How can they understand the translation between our old metrics and the new metrics? And that was something that Emma, you mentioned as well from the marketing qualified accounts. What was that? What was the analog to that in the old world? Is there an analog? And then just trying to zip it up from there.
Absolutely. I wonder if we should also consider not just like, of course, we don't want to put all of the owners on the C-suite because they're busy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if we should also consider in this not just the C-suite needing to get with the times, right? And ask more quality questions that are relevant to go-to-market modern go-to-market strategies, not the 2015 playbook. and not just put the onus on them, but consider different communication levels, right? There's more and more millennial middle management coming through who are having to communicate with the C-suite. And some of the portco managers are also of the millennial age group. So they're both speaking the same language, but the C-suite's not, right? I wonder if that's actually the gap rather than the onus on the C-suite to look at things a different way. What do we think about that concept?
I think that's interesting. It sort of makes me think of an example that I had. So a brand I was working with around the start of COVID. So they at the time were heavily dependent on in-person events and conferences for leads. That was what they did. That was their kind of bread and butter. So when, after COVID, that all kind of went away and they had to depend more on digital channels. They were it sort of forced their hand that they had to, but they were still skeptical. And kind of getting back to the proof piece was, and they were kind of skeptical, like, do we need all of these different channels? Do we need to kind of, why can't we just do Google and nothing else? That's where we're, and in their kind of defense, we were seeing our best results on Google, but that was only reaching a portion of the market. That was only reaching people who were already searching for those keywords rather than the kind of passive audiences. Yeah. But what was really beneficial at that time was we literally went into the HubSpot dashboard and saw the user journey of kind of going from a completely unaware user to a customer and showed it to them. And it was like, not only did they sort of, click on a Google ad, but they were retargeted on LinkedIn. They went back to the website, they downloaded an ebook. And then, seeing that full journey and all of the different channels coming into play was hugely beneficial. It was kind of, I almost didn't need to speak to it. It was just like, here's a journey and here's a different one that kind of hit these channels in a different order, or, didn't do Google at all, went straight to LinkedIn and became a customer. So I think being able to sort of, show them like real world examples, not just kind of the theory or here's why it should work, but here's it working in action, was really powerful at that point.
Absolutely. Lindsay Light with her squad clients is actually, as part of their monthly reporting, quarterly reporting, is showing the exact every touch point in a very visual way, of even just down to, we saw this intent spike and this triggered this campaign and this then triggered this conversation with the salesperson, and then the salesperson said to do this, etc., and show the step by step to start. And that's what the millennial marketing leaders are using to communicate, and sales leaders really, to communicate up. So let's talk about some possible solutions, right? Because I think we did hit on something with the different communication styles, right? And the understanding. First things first, if you're struggling with this, go send this to your C-suite, but read it yourself as well, so you can all be talking the same language. If you want any copies, multiple copies within the US, then just go to our website, Found&Chosen, and it's twice on our homepage to order one of these complimentary to be sent to you. Secondly, let's talk solutions. All get on the same page, but both generations need to look back at themselves and go, how can I ask questions better? How can I build trust better? And then how can I prove this out? From a C-suite perspective, they need to look at, okay, what quality questions and expectations am I working on with, or putting forward with, my direct reports? And I think that will evolve into better communication and understanding and less argy-bargy, hopefully. Paola, what do you think about that?
It is tough. I don't know what the solution is, apart from, again, for the whole organization to be involved and treat this ABM not just another marketing, just an execution marketing piece, but it's the sooner people within the organization at different levels and different backgrounds, the sooner they understand that this is a long-term change management piece, the sooner the organization will manage to have the right people around the room, virtually or in person, and share common goals. We talked about KPIs earlier, making sure that we are all running towards the sales, marketing, customer success, and C-suite needs to be aware of that as well as partners running towards the same goals on a short, medium, and long term. That way, every meeting throughout the ABM program internally will feel like collaboration. It will feel less of me telling you, look at what I've done today. Can you approve this? It's more, we are reaching this together. We are in this together. I've seen it happening. I'm never negative. I've seen it, but I also know it can be painful. We need to be honest, and it's not easy. It can be painful to get there, but once, I think it was from Brian's example, once they get it and once the first successes come in, then you don't have to fight as much for the second one. It's a lot smoother. Everyone is on board, both C-suite, management, VC, and partners. So it's the first hurdle, and I guess that's where external partners, agencies, that's where, with their expertise, because we've seen it all, that's where they can help. That's what I believe. Sometimes they want to, I come from, most of my career is in client side, and we want to do it all, but it's hard to admit. I can take it up, I can take my team up until here. Now I need an external pair of hands and knowledge and expertise to do it and to build credibility.
Absolutely. So then a challenge for all of us. We all just finished working on a piece of content that's coming out, I think, next week on the different LinkedIn ad types and how they can be used for inbound, outbound, ABM, and nearbound. So thank you, all the squad leaders, for working on that. What if for the next LinkedIn Live, we come back to the broadcast and our squad leadership meeting going, okay, now that we've considered the millennial, Gen X, and older communication styles, this is exactly the 4 or 5 things that we would do to build the trust and the proof with an ABM and Nearbound program.
I think that's great.
I feel like that would be a worthwhile exercise, right?
Yeah. And I was going to jump in on the back end of that too, and
go for it.
Try and give my 2 cents, because I did have the success story, but I have plenty of other ones where it wasn't as nice and clean. And really what it boiled down to was there wasn't a clear definition or a high resolution vision that was shared between the C-suite and the middle management or the lower executive. And that was just to say that a lot of appropriate effort can be placed in defining that shared vision. One of the real quick ways we marketers who are creative and lovers of language can do this is if you have core beliefs, or you've got tenets that, the bulletin board material that you use to recruit people or that guide you through your day to day. I can think of many of them that are all very similar. If you can tie those things to how you are executing your ABM program, or the differences that it's going to make, like let's say, the customer is always right. That's always type 1. You can use those tenets and that common language to help drive a higher definition of that shared vision. And in the end of the day, we have to assume that the C-suite is there for a reason, which they are. They're confident, they're experienced, and they're highly motivated. That if you can do whatever it takes with your skills as a marketer to, again, bring about a definition of what it will look like, how it will impact the customer, but also most importantly, how it will impact the bottom line, you do get to create that new language between the 2 parties. And then even if they don't completely get it, or you don't think you're landing on the mark, you've got that commonality, that shared vision, the shared goal of the company that you can keep going back to.
Absolutely. What a great way to wrap up, Bryant. I like that. I call that a shared vocabulary, but also I like with you what you just said about agreed upon definitions. I think that could truly bridge the gap. On that note, in 9 seconds time, I have a call exactly talking about this with an executive team for the next 45 minutes. So I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you so much for everyone for joining. Love to hear your thoughts on this very pressing topic that spans most marketing, sales, and exec teams. So squad leaders, thank you. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.